Hello there, welcome back to the Closet Historian and back to my sewing room for a few alterations today, which is, as we know, very unusual for me. I'm not really one to alter things or thrift flip very often. I've done it a few times here on the channel, mostly because it was highly requested, not because it's something I actually tremendously enjoy doing. Seam ripping things and making things fit that aren't supposed to or have something wrong with them. It's not really usually my jam. But after my recent closet clear out, there were a few items that were like just on the edge of me decluttering them, and I really, in reality, wanted to keep them, but they just needed a small tweak to the fit or the color, or maybe needed a complete remodel for one item. So I decided that if I was going to do any altering, any dyeing, any sort of renovation, that I should show you, because people tend to request alterations videos for some reason, and because I don't do them very often, if I was going to do any altering, I had better get it on camera. So let's go ahead and jump in and I'll show you what I've been up to. First things first, we have this floral rayon challis dress. This is a 1980s does 1940s design that I actually copied from a ruined vintage 80s dress, that I bought while studying abroad in the UK actually. So I made this dress. It's a copy of an 80s does 40s dress. So it's a copy of a copy. And you can see me make this dress in this video here that I will put up in a card. However, I just don't think it's the most flattering thing ever. The sleeves hit here, which is kind of the widest part of my bust. And it's just contributing to kind of a top heavy look here. I think I need something that does more of a this shape, which you'll find I like in most of my garments, honestly. So I decided that one way to quickly fix this, perhaps, could be to just modify the sleeves a little by tucking up the sleeve hems into that new shape, basically. So instead of straight across, they would hang at more of an angle to contribute to the optical illusion, making my waist look smaller. This is something you will see. I use a pattern with an all-in-one sleeve quite often. It's one of my favorite things. Favorite patterns to use. I have an all-in-one sleeve block that I use here on my channel all the time. And this is an all-in-one sleeve, this garment. However, the sleeve shape is just a little bit different because I was copying an vintage piece as opposed to using my own blocks when I was making this. So the sleeves hang a little bit differently, and I decided to go ahead and tack them up on the inside. So you can see here, I just have them folded up about 4 inches, and I have that like kind of wedge triangle bit of extra sleeve just tucked up. Instead of cutting it away and rehemming the sleeves, I decided to just tuck them up and tack them in place. So we went from this dress looking like this to now it looks a little bit different. It looks like this. So here is the dress now with the sleeves tacked up. Again, such a simple fix. Took me, a minute and a half perhaps to fix this from this odd sleeve length here that creates a more boxy straight across shape into something that is a little bit more V-shaped, a little bit more hourglass shaped, as I tend to prefer on my particular shape personally. So now I am very happy with the way this little quick makeover turned out, and I can't wait to style this and wear it hopefully this next upcoming spring, summer, fall. Who knows how often I'll get to leave the house, but perhaps I will be able to meet with friends for a socially distant picnic and be able to finally wear this dress proudly. Next up, we have this paisley cotton sateen dress I made here on the channel last year. I made this for a video called Making a 1950s Dress with a 1950s Sewing Machine, and here it is styled at the end of that video. I think this is a perfectly acceptable outfit, but just for some reason, as much as I had lusted after this fabric on Mood, and I was waiting for it to go on sale and I couldn't wait to snap some up, the resulting dress I just didn't love. I didn't love it on me for some reason. I guess the colors just weren't doing it for me. I don't know, something about the print didn't work in reality as well as it had in my head. So I decided to go ahead and try and fix this by over dyeing this dress. Now I already had some dark green RIT dye, powdered boxed dye, sitting around my sewing room that I had originally bought for a different project that never came to fruition, so I decided to go ahead and toss that dye and a couple gallons of water into a big bucket outside on the porch. It was very cold and windy that day, so I didn't film any of this process for you. I am sorry. But I decided to give over dyeing this dress a try. I did have a few scraps of this fabric left over from when I had made the dress, so I used a tiny bit of this dye and just tried testing dyeing the scrap piece first, and this is how that turned out. And of course this is patchy, but I was like, I think this might work. So after this small experiment, I decided to give the whole thing a go. But here is how the dress came out. So the dark green RIT dye is not very bright or, I guess, saturated of a green. It's very dull gray green, which is fine with me because I love all shades of green. And so I kept a lot of the colors that were originally in the print, but just dulled everything right down to this more murky paisley print, which I think suits me and my wardrobe a lot better. I know some people will disagree with this particular transformation, and I am sorry. Of course, the original fabric is still, I think, available on Mood, and I will link it below if you like the original fabric better. But no, this is how it comes out if you were to dye that with green. I don't know, I just think this murky print works better for me and my particular wardrobe. But while I had that green Rit dye bath going, I decided to throw another item in there as well. And I took this old teal green skirt from my wardrobe that I wasn't sure I wanted to keep or not, just because this brighter teal color doesn't match a lot of what I have going on, and I find it hard to make outfits with, but I decided I could try and save it by dulling down that color a little bit more. As you can see here, the rayon and linen blend fabric of this skirt accepted the same Rit dye bath a little bit differently than that last cotton sateen dress. Here we have just dulled down the color perhaps a couple of shades, and it's just a little bit less saturated, which is fine by me because I do like teal, and this darker, murkier shade just suits me and my own wardrobe better. Another item in my recent closet clear out series I mentioned was not quite exactly perfect for me despite having it custom made for me, was this bright red 1940s sweater. I did commission this reproduction 1940s sweater. It's from a 1940s pattern from a very talented knitter, and she did an excellent job. It fits me absolutely perfectly and is a stunning work of art, honestly, but it's just such a bright color red. So I decided to listen to all of you who told me that being 100% wool, it should be able to be dyed, and decided to go ahead and give it a go. So I got myself some acid dye from Dharma Trading Company online, I'll link this below, and decided to try and dye this sweater dark aubergine. Here it is on the stove. You have to heat it for 30 minutes at 180 degrees, and you have to like slowly rise to that temperature. This is much more chemistry than I'm used to doing, and I was basically just deathly afraid at this point that I was going to turn this into a big piece of clumped up felt, and well, I didn't turn it purple or into felt. Instead, it came out black, which is a perfectly acceptable surprise for me, because of course I have a lot of black in my wardrobe. I wear black all the time, and it's honestly my favorite color to wear, so if it wasn't going to come out purple, a perfectly even black, which I don't think I could have achieved if I was going for it, but was happy to have achieved as a surprise, was an excellent result for me, honestly. So here is my new, well, old sweater, dyed evenly black, honestly, which is great. So even though I was already planning on keeping the red sweater, now I will get a lot more wear out of it now that it is black. Now, longtime viewers of the channel may remember this dress. This is a Laura Ashley dress that I thrifted a couple years back, but you can see it has that lovely 1980s open back, which I tried to fix a little bit and try and figure out how to style around, but as someone who can't go braless, this really is a problematic design decision from the 1980s for me. We just can't really get along, and there's a lot of things I like about the 80s, but these open backs, it's not one of them. So I decided to go ahead and give renovating this another go. I had already taken this dress and thrift flipped it here on the channel before, and transferred it from a side zipper to having a center back zipper instead, and increased the size of the sleeves a little bit. But, you know, that open back really was a damning feature for me, and I decided I would love to have a black velvet dress. So I would go ahead and take this one apart and use the fabric to create something new. So I went ahead and seam ripped the sleeves out to keep the exact same sleeves as the original dress, but then I took the complete rest of it apart. Sorry, Laura Ashley. And I took it all apart and decided to use the fabric to cut out something completely new. So I cut out a new bodice and skirt and then kept the original sleeves. So actually this comes out looking still quite 80s looking, you'll see in the end here. But here I am drafting a pattern from my basic bodice block, as you see me do quite often here on the channel. Of course, I had the set-in sleeves already sitting aside, so I had to use a block that required a set-in sleeve, I suppose, as opposed to using my all-in-one sleeve. I could have gone for that one, but I only had a little bit of fabric to work with here, which is why you will see I have added a center front seam down this bodice as well. Normally I would cut this on the fold, of course, but I'm not working with fabric yardage. I'm working with strange pieces that basically came out of the skirt of that last dress. But I'm keeping a sweetheart neckline here at least, paying some homage to the original dress again, but I'm having a two-darted bodice with the center front seam, and then I will be changing the skirt shape entirely to having a pencil skirt shape instead of the original full skirt. Unfortunately, that full skirt was not cut out of one panel, it was cut out of these many gored sections here, which is not my favorite way to make skirts, and was a disappointment when it came to, you know, trying to fit out all these pieces on a particular grain line here. But I managed to work it out, and the fullness of that last skirt did afford me plenty of fabric to be able to cut out something completely new like this, so that was nice. But here I am, cutting everything out of the velvet, and, you know, blissfully unaware, not remembering yet how much I actually detest sewing with velvet. Now velvet, I love the look of velvet. I know it's a rather a polarizing fabric. Some people hate velvet. I love it. I think it's so pretty and so nice to wear. I think it's gorgeous, but it's just not very fun to sew with because it's puffy and marshmallowy and moves around on you. And at this point, I'm blissfully not remembering that. There's sort of an expiration date of the frustration with velvet. So you make a project out of velvet and you vow to never do so again. And then about 1.5 to 2 years later, you will have forgotten how sad it made you the last time. And you'll think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have something new out of velvet? And you'll decide to sew with it again. And then again, you will have re-upped your subscription to the, oh my God, never again, please, velvet situation. And now I don't want to make anything out of velvet for the foreseeable future because this was less than fun to sew back together. But I am luckily very happy with the result, which you'll see in a moment here. But my goodness, I was planning on making some velvet wide leg trousers this year with some black velvet in my stash. And after making this dress, again, I think I will have to wait a long while before I forget how much I hate sewing with velvet and, get some courage to try again. Oh my. Leave your best sewing with velvet tips below. In fact, I think the real solution to this is to go ahead and baste everything before you try and sew it by machine, because once you put 2 layers under a regular presser foot, I suppose maybe having a walking foot or something like that might help in this situation, but just putting regular or velvet under a regular presser foot, it just, things tend to shift and the seam doesn't ever really end up exactly where you had hoped it would. So I think if I were to use velvet in the future, that I would go ahead and hand baste everything first. And as someone who is a bit on the lazy side and likes a quick turnaround, having to hand baste everything first does sound like a bit of a nightmare to me. So I'll be putting off any velvet projects for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Now here I am cutting out a full lining to line the bodice of this as well, out of some rayon lining, and it's rare that the rayon lining is the fun part of the project for me, but And I got this far filming this project thinking I would film all the steps, and then I got over here on the machine, started again sewing the velvet, and remembered it all came crashing down. How annoying it is to sew with velvet. So I did not film the rest of the process, I'm so sorry. You'll just have to imagine me cursing and getting further and further frustrated until the project came to completion, And so we have gone from this open-backed 1980s Laura Ashley dress to something I think is still very 80s, but a little bit more Thierry Mugler, let's say. And so it turned out the third time was the charm for this dress and I. It is now in its third incarnation. It had its original life. Then I had tried to renovate it the first time to have that center back zipper in hopes that somehow that would, I don't know, make me feel less bad about having an open back. But now it has reached its final form. And I agree, the first dress was very cute and I would like to have it if it had a full back, but this one will suit me and my own wardrobe much better, and I certainly can't wait to wear it out to dinner in the future when that is, of course, possible once again. So in the end, my slightly hoarding tendencies did win out and I was able to keep a few more items after that closet clear out situation, but I hope you enjoyed seeing how I altered these items today, and of course I'll be back with more projects here real soon. Bye!